We as a gun community love the FN FNC, and I want to know why. It was never used in U.S. military or law enforcement service, never used in a famous raid, never adopted by big international militaries, and it made a notable appearance in literally one film. So today I'm out to answer the question, why do we love the FN FNC? Everyone, welcome to the show. It is so good to have you on behalf of me and this brown animal right here. We're just thrilled to have you guys here today. And we're looking at the FNC, of course, and I will tell you how this video came about. We were actually filming one day. Crispy, I don't know if you would remember this, pretty niche reference, but we were filming one day. We were in the studio, and I happened to see National Armory post a photo of this exact FNC. And I was like, damn. What do I do? And so I talked to them and I said, well, why don't you just put it in the back and just put my name on it? And that's what they did. And I paid it off over the course of several months and had them ship it to me right before Christmas. I left this in its box that it came in underneath the Christmas tree and opened it on Christmas Day. And immediately, as soon as I took it out, I asked myself a question. I said, is this a good gun? I was like, is this a good gun? I'm not sure if this is a good gun. And I'm still trying to answer it. But it's kind of like wanting to date a really hot girl, right? And you finally go on a date with her. And you're kind of on the date and you're like, so is there anything else to you other than being hot? Like you've got the hot thing down, like super hot. But like, do you have anything else to bring to the table? Or are you just a hot girl, and like that's how you're going to navigate life? And the FNC could potentially be the same thing. Again, got it from National Armory, and you might be thinking, Jake, you're such a shill for National Armory. Well, yeah, they pay me. Sure, I am. But you know what? I pay them too. So I'm a freaking customer. I am a paid and paying shill. Some of you might be thinking, Jake, how would you have even found out about that? You don't live in Pittsburgh, which is where they're based out of. Well, I don't have to live in Pittsburgh to find out. I just follow their freaking Instagram page and they post photos like this, and occasionally they get me. They've got me a few times lately. It's actually kind of a little bit of a frustrating relationship. I was like, I thought this was supposed to be profitable. Somehow I think I'm in debt to you guys. So I don't know. But National Armory is a great place with wonderful things, and we do appreciate their support. And let's go ahead and learn a little history about the old FNC here. Okay, everyone. So as I look to answer the question, why do we love the FNC so much? Let's start with it in a little bit of a historical context. Always good to know a little about where the gun came from. And the FNC really goes back to its older, bigger brother, which would be the FN FAL. Now, the FAL, whether you love it or hate it, is kind of irrelevant. It is kind of the benchmark for battle rifles. It was a gun that was so prominent, it was referred to as the right arm of the free world, which is gotta be the coolest name for a gun in human history. It's probably something cooler, but that's the one that comes to mind for me. FAL made since 1953. It's still really made today. It's not made by FN, it's made by DS Arms, and they do a really good job of it. But hey, made since 1953, 7 million of them made, used by over 90 countries, which is literally ballpark half of freaking the planet Earth. Okay, that's how many people have used the FAL. Used by a ton of NATO countries, with the notable exception being the US, who decided we were going to be fancy and have ARs and shit like that. So it's chambered in 7.62 NATO, and it's really just a robust battle rifle. I've got a couple between my OSW and then a new, was a 21-inch one down there. It's a great gun. It's just one of those like must-own gun guy guns. But as the world is evolving, 5.56 becomes the go-to cartridge, and FN is looking to make a 5.56 carbine instead of just relying on the FAL. So they originally come out with the FN CAL or CAL, which doesn't really see any success. And so they keep sort of working on the design. Eventually that leads to the FN FNC. So development on the FNC is happening around the mid-1970s. Gun is officially like launched 1980, I believe. And all of that development happens and FN releases their new Pride Enjoy 5.56 carbine. And how do the militaries of the world respond? That's, effectively, if planet Earth on professional organizations could make a noise for how they receive the FNC, it would be, okay. That's kind of what everyone did. So the gun was adopted by Sweden and Belgium. Those are the two most notable militaries to use the FNC. Neither of those would be necessarily considered like a, powerhouse, if you will. I'm sure they're great, but, not super notable. And then there were some other places that use the FNC like Indonesia, El Salvador, Tonga, and the Congo. Okay. So the most notable use, ironically, of the FNC in conflict is actually happening currently, which would be the Ukraine war. When that kicked off, FN donated, to my understanding, a few thousand FNCs to Ukraine, and they've actually gotten some work in over there. So since 1980, pretty much the most notable use of the FNC is happening in the year 2026. And it's not because it's the best tool for the job, it's because it's a tool, and they kind of just need a tool at this point. So if it's not famous, if the FNC is not famous in a military context, well, it must be famous because it was like just a smash hit within the civilian market. Is kind of the sound effect the civilian market made. Not really that big of a hit. FN made 6,000 semi-auto units that were going to be exported or imported into the U.S. for civilian sales. Now, all that's happening before 1989 when the importation ban hit. So they get 6,000 of them in. And ironically, most of those came in before 1986. So of the 6,000 guns that came in, most of them, like actually a north of 50% of them, I don't know that we know the exact number. Well, I guess we would because it would be a federal record, but I don't know what the number is. But most of them got converted to transferable machine guns because it was a really good host gun to be able to, make it a transferable. So believe it or not, it's easier to find a fully automatic FNC than it is a semi-automatic. Now that makes me feel a little bit better because I look at my semi-auto FNC and I'm like, cool, tad bit gay, but technically more rare at the same time. So that does make me sleep a little bit better there. So what I just gave you is essentially the full picture of the FNC from a real world perspective. And nothing that I just told you makes it a notable firearm from military or law enforcement or civilian sales. It's just kind of like, yeah, it was there. It was a gun that was there. So all that being a bit underwhelming, it must be famous because it's just legit on the range. So again, if the gun has no particular historical significance, you might be going, it's going to be a banger at the range, right? So the first thing, you may be looking at these two guns here, which we have an FAL, full-length FAL, and the FNC, and you might be thinking, that is pretty robust for a 5.56 rifle. And yeah, that is very, very safe to say. It is, quite frankly, more robust in many ways than the FAL, especially on the lower. It's kind of undisputably more robust than the FAL. It is very, very overbuilt, the FNC, that is. Internally, one of the good things I will say about it, very simple takedown process. Obviously not going to show it here because of the nature of the platform that we're on, but incredibly simple. It's almost a hybrid of AR and AK, right? We've got two pins, which are right here, push those through, whole gun comes apart. And then once you get in there internally, it's kind of a hybrid of AK. There's a little bit of like SIG 55X series, which again is largely AK inspired. The FAL, of course, is a short stroke piston system. I actually just got this bad boy not long ago from DS Arms, and I've only even got a couple mags on it. Now, one thing you will, of course, notice on the FAL, it's a rock and lock style of mag. And a big old heavy bolt. And there's a charm to an FAL. It's a violent brute of a firearm. Is it enjoyable to shoot? Yeah, if you like a little bit of sort of brutality in your life. But the FAL is a short stroke piston system versus the FNC, which is long stroke. Now got two different types of ammo here. We'll talk about this in 1 second here. Of course, you will now notice, not rock and lock. The mag just goes in the gun. Now, I don't know if you guys picked up on that sound, so I'm going to do it again. Certain guns have an audible noise when you chamber them where you're like, that's a good sounding gun. Like you chamber an AR and it just sounds like shit, right? You just hear the spring condensing and all this kind of stuff. It's not a good noise. But if you listen to an FAL chamber, or a FNC, sorry. Whew. Good sound from the FNC, we'll give it that. FNC long stroke piston, so of course you will notice this reciprocating. You will also notice it is sending brass into the next dimension. The FAL is adjustable on its gas. The adjustments are happening up here, and you've got a lot of different adjustability on this. So if it's adverse conditions or if you want to tune it to particular ammo, you can do that. Of course, the downside from a military perspective, a lot of potential error at the user, operator level in terms of adjusting gas, or you knock it out of where it was supposed to be. FNC totally different. It's 2-position gas system, and you change it right here. That's all it is. It is not up here where there's going to be a lot more heat. It's back here where it's going to stay nice and cool. So this is on the mild setting right now. We'll call this normal, and I don't know if we'll be able to... where did that even go? Oh, usually they go about 2 o'clock. You see where it's going?
No, I don't.
I literally don't even see the shell.
Like 20 yards. It's landing right where I'm at.
Okay, yeah, I would say usually it goes about 2 o'clock. So that's a distance of, we'll call it 20 feet between me and Crispy right now. This is on the normal setting. If we swap it to adverse, it may not function. Dear Lord.
Go again, I'll show it. I didn't even see that one.
Let me show you exactly where that went. Stay with me, Crispy.
Yeah.
Let me paste this out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. It hit this bush. That's 17 yards that it sent that brass. Now, when I say the gun is insanely overgassed, especially on adverse setting, I can't really overstate that. The first time I swapped it to adverse setting, it literally malfunctioned the gun because it couldn't eject the brass because the bolt was just going so fast. It's a very healthily gassed system. Oh! I just kicked it.
What'd you kick?
I kicked it. That'll really put a dent in your day, won't it? Psychopaths in Utah. That's disgusting.
Your public lands.
Absolutely disgusting. Okay, so we've got a stamped steel upper receiver. We've got an aluminum lower receiver. Why did they do aluminum? Not quite sure. Probably because of cost. Probably just a little bit cheaper to make, and they wanted to keep the cost manufacturing these as low as possible. 2 stock options on your FNCs for those of you that decide to dabble in the FNC market. You've got the fixed stock, which I have here. It is identical to the FAL stock. I do not believe they are necessarily interchangeable, but it is fundamentally the same stock. FN actually really liked that stock, and so they kept with it. There is, however, much like the FAL, a sort of triangular folding stock for the FNC. I will be the first to tell you I think the triangle stock is cooler And yet, the thick stock is actually more rare. So if you want the cool one, that's probably the side folder. If you want the one that's actually less common, that would be the one that I have here. Now, the lower, let's talk about the lower. When I say it is very streamlined and simple, let me highlight something. Look at this. Look at the damn size of the thing, okay? It's the biggest lower you've ever seen, especially on a 5.56 gun. And on this entire side of the lower, there is one button. There is one control, magazine release. That is literally it. That is the only thing that exists on this, what do we have? 3 yards worth of aluminum material down here. Well, it must be all on the other side. All right, let's look at the other side. The other side has one thing going on, a safety. So literally on this entire lower receiver, there are 2 controls. There is a safety and there is a magazine release. There's of course then a bolt release because the gun doesn't have last round hold open. Speaking of which, we'll talk about that. The mags are, they're Stanag pattern mags. So yes, you could run, you know, a Colt metal mag or something like that in this gun, no problem. The gun does not have last round hold open, so you will get a click instead of a bang. My gun came with 1 mag, and then shout out to Henry from 9 Hole Reviews. I knew he had an FNC. I was like, where do you get mags for these things? And I think these were Valmet mags. Like, so they're not technically an FN FNC mag, but they're basically identical, just minus the coating. And they were like super dirt cheap. Let's talk about the grip. So you will notice the FAL and the FNC have the exact same grip angle. That's because the FN really liked that grip angle. You might be thinking that is a really, really steep grip angle. And why did they do that? Well, it's not really ideal for shooting shoulder fire because, of course, I mean, you can see here, right? Your wrist is, you know, coming off at a pretty steep angle. The point of that grip is because it's more ergonomic for hip shooting. So if you go from here to here, now you'll notice that I'm basically at a neutral sort of angle, if you will. So this bad boy is really meant to be shot, and it's actually why would you do that? No real clue, but it's actually where the gun shines. Also, because the gun has a bayonet lug, again, bayonet, right? Neutral hand-to-hand combat style of grip, if you will. It's weird that the grip is more catered to shooting from the hip or thrusting a bayonet into someone versus shooting from the shoulder, but hey, what do I know? The trigger, we'll talk about the trigger. Quite simply, the trigger is shit. It's very bad. It's a very, very bad trigger, and as soon as I unboxed the gun the day I opened, I was like, wow, that's a notably bad trigger. We'll talk about the upper receiver. There's 2 different barrel lengths of the FNC. There's the one that I have, which is actually 17.7 inches, very specific. And then there is a 14.3 inch. Of course, the probably most notable FNC of all time would have been the 14-inch gun. I have never really found one of those. I haven't hard searched, but definitely the 17.7 inch barrel is going to be the far more common one. Very crude, very simple sights, 2 position adjustable rear sight. I've never grouped this gun or anything. I think Henry did actually. I think Henry did a video where he grouped his, and it actually did pretty well. You have a hinging dust cover back here. It's actually one of the features that's quite neat. Crispy, can you kind of see this little bad boy? So this hinging dust cover, some of you may recognize this as being similar to like a Galil Ace, right? We've done a couple Galil Ace videos. I'm pretty sure that would have picked it up. I'm not sure like at what point the Galil went to that versus when the FNC came out. I'm not sure who did it first is my point. The reason they did that is the FAL was not known to do well in dusty environments, and a lot of the environments the FAL was used in, of course, heavy dust and things like that. And so they basically went to this hinging little dust cover just to seal up the system and get a little bit more reliability. Is it reliable? Yeah. Haven't had any malfunctions outside of the gun over-gassing itself to death. Handguards are largely interchangeable. I spoke to Mark at DS Arms because obviously, hey, DS Arms is the modern day FAL company, and we were talking about the FNC, and he's like, yeah, with a small amount of work, you can pretty much interchange handguards on these bad boys. Up front, we've got the grenade sight, making sure that's not hot. That'll shut off the gas, and you can use that to launch grenades if you need to do some grenade work. One notable thing, and then we'll move on, that I found to be pretty interesting about this today. So the ammo, we got like a few rounds in here. So these rounds are 77 grain boat tail hollow points. I was not using these for any particular reason other than they were just kind of what was up next in my, roster of 5.56 ammo that I was shooting. And it turns out the FNC does not like these rounds, and we will... So Crispy can zoom in on the target, and I think we got another shot we can show you. The gun cannot stabilize this round. It almost perfectly, like if this was an Olympic sport to see what gun could keyhole the best, it would be the FNC on these 77 grain hollow points. And just for shits and gigs, because I haven't shot these, this is just some ball 55 grain, and I'm just curious if it will stabilize this. I like to think it will stabilize something. So I'm just gonna shoot the bottom of the target just to see if we can get a little group here to... Where the hell are these rounds going? Okay, so these are my 55 grain. Okay, so that's the answer. 77 grain, literally going through at a perfect actual shape of a bullet. These are the 55 grain rounds. So if you ever get an FNC, I would recommend, just based on a little bit of science here, you get 55 grain rounds, not 77. 77, 55. There we go. So if there's nothing notable about the FNC from a historical perspective or purely a firearms perspective, like it being just the most amazing, innovative gun in the world, I think I might have the answer why it's famous. And that, of course, would be, as we got a tired brown dog here, that, of course, would be that it was made famous by pop culture, right? And there's no surprises here. I mean, now the video sort of comes to like, okay, well, yeah, we knew this was coming. It really comes down to the use of the FNC, and that is as the primary fighting rifle of Vin Diesel in Triple X. Now, the movie follows Xander Cage. He's an extreme sports athlete that gets recruited by the NSA to save the world.
Jake, I don't think this is the direction this bit was going.
Kid,
I've never heard of this movie.
Did you see the flow that was happening here?
I've never heard of this movie.
Did you? Triple X? Are you kidding me?
No.
Okay, well, you're fired after tonight. Me and the brown dog are gonna pick it up from where we were, and when I'm in a flow, please do not fucking cut in again. Okay, so hooah! Shake it off. Get back in the zone here. So, gets recruited by the NSA to save the world. Now, he's got to infiltrate, Xander, right, has to infiltrate a Russian terrorist network led by a man named, and this is not a joke, Yorgi, okay? Not to be confused with a Yorkie. His name is Yorgi, okay? Now, we get towards the end of the movie, and Xander gets his main rifle, which would be the FNC, and it's outfitted with like a drum magazine and this Seymour sight. It's pretty gangster. Ultimately, just to fast forward, the movie goes into Oscar contention in the year 2002.
Let me stop you right there, Irish Panther.
Motherfucker.
I think the section would be a lot better if we did it on heat.
Damn.
Cut. Cut.
Okay, as Crispy mentioned, there is a movie called Heat, and the FNC was in it, so we just paused, and I spent the 3 hours to go watch Heat. So let's go and talk about the film a little bit. It's got a couple of actors in it, from Robert De Niro to Val Kilmer to Al Pacino. Now, as I began planning this video, I quickly began to ponder, is this gun only famous, literally, from one use in a movie? And I was like, it can't be that simple. Like, it can't be that simple. There's got to be more to the FNC story than that. I would also tell you this. It's so rare that a singular use of a gun in a movie can have such an impact on the legacy of a firearm. Very few examples of this where you're like, no, the gun fundamentally changed because, in terms of how we see it and appreciate it, because of a singular use in a movie. But Heat is sort of in this like immortalized like pedestal that we put it on, right? Like we have as a gun community have sort of just agreed, Heat is the movie, even though it's, very long and it's got, different stuff going on. I mean, it is an epic gun movie, if we're going to give it that. And in many ways, it was a matter of right time, right place. Because the movie came out in 1995, and I was actually talking to Mark from DS Arms about this, and Mark's like a proper gun guy. I hope Mark doesn't mind me shouting him out here, but I was talking to him because obviously DS Arms makes the FAL, and I was like, hey, you're probably gonna know some shit about the FNC. Let's talk. And we were talking about the FNC, and he was like, yeah, I remember in '95 when it came out. That was the early days of the internet, and what was notable about that was the movie was coming out, and this is in the early days of like chat rooms and message boards and things. And he remembered seeing like on chat boards and stuff, people being like, man, what was that gun Pacino had in Heat? And that's kind of where like the legend of the FNC developed, was in this like early chat day of the internet, or people trying to figure out what was that gun from Heat? Because again, it wasn't a notably famous firearm at all, but it comes in Heat and everyone starts talking about it. Okay, so we are downtown. Things have not popped off yet, but there Pacino's getting out of the Crown Vic. So we got shotguns, okay, so the first thing that, you have to ask yourself when you watch the shootout here from the perspective of the FNC is, where exactly did Pacino get an FNC from? Because it's not used by any law enforcement agencies, it's not used by any military, so you're like, how exactly was he the detective that had the FNC? Kind of weird, doesn't make any sense, but it's a movie, we go with it. And of course things pop off. Now what does make some strategic sense about the FNC is mag compatibility, because if a lot of his teammates here are running, a Stanak pattern gun, an M16 or something like that, obviously the mags would be interchangeable between the FNC there, which looks so damn good on camera, and the ARs. And we will notice here as he runs into place, epic shot, probably the best shot of the movie right there. So his gun comes up, he takes a few shots there. What you notice when you see his gun is he actually has the 14-inch carbine version of the FNC, and that is about as cool as it gets. I've got the 17.7-inch. He's got the 14-inch. So Pacino has one-upped me on this. It's so gangster cool. When it came in, I'll admit, when my gun came in, I actually really didn't know that there were two links of the FNC. I thought it was all like mine. And I was looking at Heat and I was going, hang on. His, like, the front end of his gun is shorter than mine. I was like, son of a bitch. I don't really know that you can find those 14-inch guns. Like, I've never even seen one for sale. Now, part of the reason I think the FNC was such a killer choice for Heat is that it's a gun that has personality. And that is so lost these days on action movie making. If Heat were made today, it would be nothing but, look at him. And you know what's cool about that shot? If we back up here, let's look. So Pacino goes behind the vehicle to take cover to do his reload. Tell me what you guys notice about this. Actually, I'd never connected the dots on this till right now. It goes behind the engine block, mind you. Mag went in and he chambered the gun. Why is that interesting? Because there's no last round hold open. So technically that was a proper reload. He would have got a click instead of a bang, and he would have had to mag out, mag in, chamber the gun. Pretty slick, actually. Good technical advising on that. Takes those shots just with perfect camera angles. And again, like I was saying, the FNC has personality. If this was made in the year 2026, it'd be nothing but Glocks and ARs. And an example, there was a movie not long ago called The Rip with Matt Damon and Ben Affleck, and it kind of falls apart at the end, but truthfully until the end it's actually pretty highly entertaining. But again, it's like police, gritty, cop drama kind of thing. And it's nothing but Glocks and ARs, because in many ways you're like, well, that is what departments use now. So it's almost ludicrous to not have your actors with those guns, even though those guns are very boring. This was still in the era of diversity of weapons, right? Where a lot of different things were being used in the 90s. So you've got, the rifles of Heat, are just stunning. From the 733, which I've got up there, Galil, which I've got up there, the FNC, can you tell I'm kind of a nerd for this stuff? HK91s, the FALs, you're just like, that's the big five of Heat. Those are the big five rifles of Heat. And you're like, holy shit, that is a roster. So Pacino's pursuing De Niro and Val. Takes those last couple shots. Those bullets definitely would have passed through the back of that vehicle. All good. It really is epic how well this thing holds up. I mean, this just holds up so incredibly well. So all the stupid bystanders won't get out of his way, so he can't actually take a good shot. And now he's stuck going after Cherito. So Cherito decides he's going to be a real dick and take a hostage. So he takes the little girl like an absolute asshole. Now, if we look at what's the distance he takes this precision shot, I'm saying it's about 25 yards away. Look at that shot. Look at that shot. So I think this is probably about 25 yards away. Turns and just smokes him. Amazingly cool. Amazingly cool. Like, it's just undeniable. Like, the FNC is immortalized for that scene right there. And it makes me wonder, you know, I mean, the little girl there, like, I don't know, her name was Natalia or whatever it was, you know, she was wrong place, wrong time. She gets captured, and with some very crude sights, you got to take the shot. You got to save the hostage. And that seems fairly doable. Okay, gang, so if we think about what happens at the end of Heat, we'll do a little bit of a recreation here. Cherito gets away. He's got his hostage, right? Captures, I don't know if it was a female of some kind. And Pacino loses Val and De Niro through the parking lot. And he's got to sprint through the parking lot and get in position to wait for Cherito to turn. So we're going to, and then he takes the sniper shot with the FNC. So we're going to start our sprint from, maybe about 50 yards away, get into a position here. As best I can tell, he takes that shot from about 25 yards away, and we're going to take our hostage rescue shot. Just to show you our target. Unfortunately, sweet, sweet Natalia has once again fallen captive to Cherito this time, and she's relying on me, Al Pacino, to come to the rescue. So we've got Cherito as he turns into his imminent death, which is pretty much what will happen to him here. And he has left this big old Sizemore dome for me to take the shot. Pretty basic shit. Natalia ready. Cherito ready. Hooah! Get down, woman. Woman! Wait. Steady his breath. I got him. I know I got him. Skimmed right past his face. It skimmed right past him. Did she get hit? We got a center mass, clavicle. Blew out her shoulder. Right titty. Damn. Let me say one more thing. You play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. When you're out for like a stroll and you hear 733s and Galils and FNCs going off, leave the scene. She didn't leave the scene. She decided to stick around, try to get Instagram famous. I'll be in the middle of the shootout, film a TikTok. And what happened? She got smoked through no fault of mine. Cherito captured her. I sent a bullet past Cherito's head. Stupid ass. So we started with the question, why do we love the FNC? And just to recap here, it's not a historically significant firearm. It's not notably good at anything. It's big and heavy and kind of crude, and it's not particularly great at anything. And it has one use in a very famous action movie. Not only action movie scene. So much like the Spaz that sits back here, there's a Spaz 12 somewhere in the ballpark of where I'm pointing there. The FNC is famous for being famous. It's kind of like a Kardashian for the gun world. It didn't really do much to get famous, but it's very famous because it's famous. That's what it did. It's famous for being famous. It's just like the freaking spaz. The good news, if you're a collector, there's so few of these out there, especially in semi-auto, and especially even with a fixed stock, that from a collector perspective, pretty good gun to have. Should hold value very well over time. So if you're one of those guys that likes to play the game of like, oh, let's just buy stuff that's going to be cool and, you know, good on the, on the collector board, FNC definitely a good one to have, as the values will likely continue to climb. But it really is one of those guns that you buy for the love of gun collecting. You don't buy it because it's going to be particularly good at anything. It's kind of, it's like, I don't know, man. I like it, but it's not. I'll be perfectly frank with you. When I got the spaz, I really shot the spaz, and I mean, sure, it's clunky, it's obnoxious, it's very complicated on the manual of arms, but I shot the spaz and I was like, yeah, this one holds up for me. Like, the spaz is like badass, and I think it gets a bad reputation. The FNC, in many ways, I wonder, like, it might be worse than the reputation. I think the reputation might be good, and it's not a bad gun, but it's certainly not like notably good at anything. And that's kind of the story of the FNC. It's famous for being famous. It got shot in freaking downtown LA for like a couple weeks during a shootout, and like that's the story of the FNC. And for whatever reason, we love it. And you know what? That's fine. That's good enough for me. Hope you guys are doing well. Say hi to the kids, say hi to the wife for me, you know, just give the whole family like a freaking hug on behalf of the 1911 Syndicate crew here. Crispy in particular. Crispy was the one that asked me to do that plug. He's like, yeah, give the family a hug. So anyway, you guys do that on behalf of us. I'm going to go have an old fashioned. We'll talk to you next week.